who am I? So not everyone will realize that, but when we realize that, I think first we have to get off the treadmill. We have to go time out, slow down. Maybe the question, who am I, is the question, what do I want? What do I like? What do I value? What do I prioritize? Who am I drawn to? What are the things that represent what I desire in my life, you see?
Comes to mind here, this story that you've discovered, being a high achiever, high performer. I had, a version of that, not to the extreme. Like my parents, like my mom consciously tried to create this environment for just being, and she kept telling me, like, you don't have to study so hard. She would actually, tell me, like, don't do your homework, come on, just take a day off. Like, she would encourage me to do that, but of course that's not how it works, like not with words, not when you're already in teenage years. But the trope is very familiar. And just a few days ago, I was talking to a good friend of mine who's been with me since high school. And I was reflecting on a trip which sort of turned the dynamics in my life around, because that achieving and performing and unrealistic expectations to myself led me to a pretty dismal space in my mind. And then we had one trip, after which it feels like it started going the other way. And then she reminded me about what happened. And I can't retell the incidents because, it's... she asked me not to. But the friend, she's always had a different value system. So when I would talk about my ambitions and getting a job and getting a degree, she would do something on purpose, yawn or sneeze, or like her body would literally indicate her disapproval of those values. And through her reactions, I think that I subconsciously started to understand that, okay, this is not the only way. Like, this person in front of me is indicating that something is not going well. Like, she has these reactions, very physiological reactions to what I'm telling her. And that was so valuable because I feel like talking to her actually started turning it around for me. And so I guess what I wanted to say is that it might be really important to surround yourself with people who share different values. And it's often difficult because if a person goes to college, they would have this bubble of people who all have the same ambitions. And finding some places to connect with people with alternative lifestyles, and I feel like Hoi An is definitely one such place, could be really helpful. Just to have somebody to reflect something different to you.
Oh, is that the process of recover yourself or just discover yourself?
Sorry?
Is that the way you want to recover yourself, or you want to discover something from yourself?
Recover, discover, that's a good question. I guess both. Now it's been a few years since I've let go, at least to some extent, this grip of what I must achieve. But I feel like I'm struggling with it still, because I started my second bachelor's, and it is all coming back, like I have to do more, I'm not studying enough, I'm going to fail. And so it's still with me, and I'm really happy that I'm here now, because I get to interact with people with alternative lifestyles, and it's a very good reminder that my life is not about some function. And
One way to think about this is the degree to which what we're doing is future-minded, okay, or present-minded, okay. And what I think was quite interesting in your story was the woman who's yawning and being quite disinterested in your aspiration for the future was actually demonstrating, this is how I feel right now,
Yeah, exactly.
And so being present living in the present and allowing life to unfold is really a different set of values or a different way of being in the world than what so many of us are taught about how we have to plan for the future and work towards being someone else, sometime else. We're not there. We're going to be someone else, but we have to accomplish all these things. And you use the word competition. And for me, this is a very important piece, because when we're in a social group, and school and university and corporations create a kind of a competition, and when we start to believe in that mindset, then everything has to do with the idea of success and failure, winning and losing, reaching a goal, which is totally a future-minded way of thinking. And it robs us from the full experience of being okay in the here and now. And I say, when we're okay in the here and now, we don't have to worry too much about the future, because we can be okay 5 years from now or next week, because today I know how to be okay. You see? The future is something we need to give some thought to, but we don't need to sell the present for the future. And so for many people, making that transition of this is what I'm doing, and what next, and what's going to be in my career, and how, it's like wind it back down and say, well, let me get grounded first. Let me be okay with myself. Let me be in the present. And then, the future, okay, how can I point in the right direction and find myself aligning with my values and prioritizing the ways that I get there. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, my love.
Thank you. I just, what you described, it sounds like one doesn't have to sacrifice their present self for the sake of future self. So it's interesting that, in the Russian language, and the word sacrifice and the word victim are the same word, like they're semantically connected. I randomly realized that, and then I started, researching it. What about the other languages like Latin, Greek, German, French? Actually, in many languages, in most of them, the word sacrifice and the word victim, they have the same semantic root. And I feel like it implies that the act of sacrifice implies that you gotta make yourself a victim. So what you're saying sounds like, stop being a victim in the present. And I still feel like sacrifice is a very important, it's important to know how to do that to some extent, because without it there is no future. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's, I guess it's a new perspective for me about this okayness today, which is a sign that you can be okay later as well.
When we gain the confidence to be able to say how this day is based on the choices I made and the things I've chosen for my life, and it's a small world, it's the one I'm living in, then it can also give us a lot of confidence that no matter what the circumstances, of course, there can be sickness or many difficult parts of life that would make that more hard, but given the idea that it's today that matters most, okay? And if I can master the art of living today, then I have the confidence I can do that wherever I am and however I am. I know you had some.
It's amazing. Thoughts. That's an amazing thought to really reflect on after this dialogue, because as what you have mentioned, that everyone, not most of the people, were molded in a way how they should be performing and all this stuff. I was in that same space before as well, and based on experience. And I love how you said the rediscover and discovering, because I feel like, okay, I was in that space, but then I took some time to, I called it before like a pause of my professional life, like as a nurse, because when I was in Singapore working as a healthcare assistant 2017, I had an incident which took me to a space where I asked myself like, is this life? Because I had had concussion because of drinking too much. And why was I drinking too much? Because I was so unhappy of my current situation of just repeating the routine for the past 2 years. And I was trying to find myself in nature every time I have the free time out from work. So that's how I do it. But then I got to that point of drinking too much and partying and all this stuff. And I got into the hospital. I woke up with a question of like, is this it? What am I doing with my life? Like, am I really happy? Is this it? Is there more? And then I stopped. I went to Europe, do anything else apart from the profession I had, where I faced my ego. Those voices that I didn't know that was in me because I was following it. But then when I did different thing, that's when I rediscovered myself and discovered who I was. But I have to face myself first. So when you mentioned about taking, how did you say it? Like, get out from the treadmill, take time to slow down, and then see the where in yourself you feel okay. So that's where rediscovering and discovering. Does it mean that for those people who's actually not living in that authenticity within them, are they going to have the same experience? And is there like a choice for them not to, or if they could,
It is a discovery, and often it comes when something has gotten to an extreme that is no longer sustainable. The fact that you had that crisis moment and you found yourself in the hospital was your wake-up call. I'm living the way I think I'm supposed to live, rather than from the inside out. Okay, I'm performing according to what I thought was the right way, but I'm denying some part of me that knows better. So this is where we have to figure out the difference between sacrifice and compromise. Okay, because we can't push a button and say, okay, now I know exactly what it is and I'm gonna be my perfect authentic self. No, we have to kind of find our way by making mistakes, by swinging too far this way and then coming back and working our way more and more to an understanding of what is true for me. Okay, and we can keep growing and changing as we discover. Okay, we can allow ourselves what's called a growth mindset.
Oh, so I think what's come first? We have to accept ourselves. We try to forgive ourselves, or we try to forget ourselves. What comes first? I think on the way to find, like the monks say, find the way to epiphany. Find the way to that, or just on the process of finding something inside yourself that is ethereal.
It's a great question, and I think it is a how question. How do we do that? And that awareness is part of it. So a lot of times, especially if we don't have self-acceptance, then we're trying to get validation from those outside of us. So we're trying to win the approval of our parents or our boss or our friends, okay? So because our need for self-acceptance is not met, we're living a life that's trying to get that need met. Okay, and we become over-identified with the labels of who we are. I'm a nurse. For you, it might be, I'm proud of myself because I have this good job and it gives me an identity, and it's, You know, when I tell people I'm a nurse and I have a good income, you know, that's a label and an identity. But it might be I hate doing this because I hate being around sick people all the time. You see? So if we over-identify with our labels, then we get stuck in the idea of who we are. Okay, the idea of who we are is different than the experience of living. You see? And often we could say an idea of who we are is like an ego, like our ego. And we're trying to have a strong, acceptable ego. My ego needs to feel good. Okay? The truth is, once our ego does feel good, we don't need it anymore. You see, we don't need to prove ourselves, you see.
What about the opposite? Refusal to identify with an occupation. Because I remember I've always been saying what I am with a not. I'm not a model. I worked as a model for like 3 years and I didn't feel I was successful enough. So it was like, and I was also ashamed of how I would express my sexuality and like through some dissociative states. So I would say, I'm not a model, I'm not a manager. That's when I started my bachelor's in management. I'm not a marketing manager. That was my first job. My second job, I still can't define what exactly I was doing. I feel like I was copy-pasting info from one Google Sheet into another Google Sheet, but that can't be it. Like I worked for a year and a half there, and it was a startup, and I helped it to grow, I hope. Then I'm still saying that I'm not an English teacher. I've been doing it for 3.5 years, and I still struggle with this like identification. So it's like I'm pushing away all of it.